Okay, let's unpack this generative AI. It's incredible how quickly it's gone from this, future idea to something really changing how we work.
It really is. Suddenly everyone's trying to figure it out.
Yeah, the speed is something else.
It's a period of incredibly rapid evolution, and the implications are, well, pretty profound.
So for this deep dive, we've waded through some really insightful reports. PwC, McKinsey, OSF, KPMG. Think of this as your shortcut, your fast track to understanding what really matters here.
Exactly. We're pulling out the core knowledge.
Yeah, how generative AI is changing work.
Our aim is really to give you a clear, comprehensive view. We'll look at the big productivity potential, obviously,
Right.
but also how jobs might change, the whole workforce transformation piece, and how companies are, trying to manage it all.
Totally. Because this isn't just about the tech, is it? It's the impact on our jobs, the skills we'll need, where the job market's heading.
Precisely. So, shall we dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's start with maybe the biggest buzzword, productivity.
Always the first question.
Right. PwC's analysis, it suggests AI could add trillions globally. But here's the kicker. They estimate generative AI could boost AI's overall impact by like 15 to 40%.
15 to 40, that's a huge range, but even the low end is massive.
It really gives you a sense of the scale, doesn't it? And McKinsey, well, they're right there with similar numbers, projecting maybe $2.6 to $4.4 trillion annually.
Annually.
Just from generative AI use cases. And get this, they think that figure could pretty much double if it gets properly embedded into the software we already use.
Okay, hang on, double. How does that work? What does embedded integration actually look like day to day?
Good question. So think about AI writing help just being standard in your word processor.
Like spell check, but way smarter.
Exactly. Or smart data analysis tools, just, part of your spreadsheets, not separate things you have to boot up.
Got it. So it becomes seamless.
Right. And that makes it usable for way more tasks, way more people. That's where the big value jump comes from. McKinsey actually pinpoints 4 key areas where most of this value, like 75% of it, might land.
Okay, what are they?
Customer operations, marketing and sales, software engineering, and R&D.
Let's break those down a bit. Customer operations, what's the potential there?
Think better self-service, much faster answers for customers, maybe even more sales because the interactions are so personalized.
Okay.
They actually give an example. A company, 5,000 agents, saw a 14% jump in how many issues they resolved per hour.
14%, that's substantial.
And a 9% drop in handling time. Real measurable stuff.
Right. And marketing and sales?
Speeding up content creation, obviously.
All right.
But also using data better for targeting SEO help, personalized product suggestions that actually feel relevant.
Makes sense. And software engineering, you mentioned faster coding.
Yeah, faster code generation, easier refactoring. This could be huge for developers. McKinsey cites a study on GitHub Copilot users. They finish tasks 56% faster.
56%. What does that kind of speed mean for, innovation?
Well, it could seriously speed up development cycles.
Yeah.
Getting new features out much quicker.
And free up developers for harder problems.
Potentially, yes. Less time on routine code, more on complex, innovative work. And then there's R&D. Think faster drug discovery, new materials design. They call it generative design.
So AI actually suggesting novel designs.
Exactly. Exploring possibilities humans might miss. Speeding up that whole innovation pipeline. And KPMG adds an interesting angle here. They call generative AI a real step change.
Beyond just regular AI.
Yeah. They see it sparking new ideas, really augmenting what knowledge workers can do, letting them focus on higher value, more strategic tasks.
Okay, so the productivity side looks, huge. But what about the jobs themselves? How does this change what people actually do?
Right. That's the other side of the coin. And this is where McKinsey's workforce transformation analysis is key. They suggest generative AI could automate tasks that currently take up, get this, 60 to 70% of employees' time.
60 to 70%, that's a lot.
It is. And it means the pace of change could speed up dramatically. They're now thinking maybe half of today's work activities could be automated between 2030 and 2060. Midpoint around 2045.
Faster than we thought before.
Definitely faster than earlier projections.
Which brings us to the crucial point. What support will workers need to handle that kind of shift?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? If that many tasks are automated, what does that mean for skills? Reskilling.
Exactly. There's going to be a huge need for support.
Yeah.
Training, helping people maybe move into different kinds of roles.
Okay.
And here's something interesting from McKinsey. the biggest impact might not be on manual jobs, like we used to think with automation.
Right, robots taking factory jobs narrative.
Yeah, this is different. They see generative AI hitting knowledge work hardest. Higher wage jobs, roles involving decision-making, collaboration. That really flips the script.
So it affects different jobs than previous waves of automation. It seems like it. They also estimate generative AI alone could boost overall labor productivity by 0.1 to 0.6% per year through 2040.
Which sounds small, but annually, that adds up.
It does. To give an example, think of university English teachers. AI could handle maybe test prep, grading outlines, freeing them up for more one-on-one student time.
Which could actually improve education quality.
That's the idea, making the human interaction part richer. And McKinsey also flags something else, the speed of progress in natural language understanding.
Like computers understanding text and speech.
Right. They now think AI might hit median human performance levels there in 2023. Their old estimate was 2027.
Yeah, that's a massive leap, 4 years earlier.
It just shows how fast this is moving. And KPMG, they echo this. They talk about a workforce remodel, not just a tech upgrade.
A remodel, meaning fundamentally changing how things are structured.
Exactly. Rethinking workflows, roles, how people work together across the whole company.
Okay, let's zoom in on the U.S. specifically. What kind of job shifts are we looking at there?
So McKinsey's U.S. report flags quite a bit of movement. They saw 8.6 million job shifts just during the pandemic years, 2019 to 22.
Which is already a lot of churn.
It was. Now they're projecting another 12 million shifts by 2030.
12 million more people potentially changing occupations. How much of that is down to generative AI?
Well, they reckon generative AI pushes the potential automation of work hours up to nearly 30%, 29.5% by 2030.
And without it?
Without it, the estimate was more like 21.5%. So it's adding significant momentum to existing automation trends.
So where will the jobs grow and where will they shrink in the U.S.?
They expect growth to continue in healthcare, STEM roles, science, tech, engineering, math management jobs too.
Okay, the usual suspects for growth.
Pretty much. But declines expected in office support, customer service, food service roles. They specifically mentioned potential losses for clerks, retail salespeople, admin assistants, cashiers.
So a real mix of impacts. Will it affect everyone equally?
Doesn't look like it. McKinsey's analysis suggests lower wage workers could be hit harder. Their jobs might be up to 14 times more likely to change due to automation.
14 times. That's a huge disparity.
It is, meaning they might be the ones most likely to need to find completely new types of work.
Which underlines the need for retraining access.
Absolutely. The report stresses that, and also the growing need for what they call social-emotional skills, communication, empathy, teamwork, alongside digital skills, of course.
So tech skills plus people skills.
That seems to be the combo. And they push for new hiring approaches, too, focusing more on skills and potential, less just on degrees or credentials.
Okay, a massive shift potentially underway. Let's switch gears slightly. The OSF report looked at how employees themselves are feeling about this, right? Early adopters versus others.
Yes, exactly. OSF provides that ground-level view. They found early ChatGPT users are, well, generally more positive about AI's impact on society and their own productivity.
Makes sense. They're seeing the benefits firsthand.
But interestingly, they also worry more about the ethical side and potential job replacement.
Huh. So more optimistic about the upside, but also more concerned about the risks.
Kind of a fascinating duality, yeah. And in terms of how people are using it.
What are the common uses?
Mostly research, drafting things, emails, longer docs, editing help, summarizing text. Seems executives and managers are using it a bit more frequently than others right now.
And what benefits are they actually reporting? Increased efficiency.
That's the big one, especially for early adopters and managers. They also mention help with idea generation, getting unstuck.
The blank page problem.
Could help with that, yeah. And improving work quality, better communication. The early adopters are just generally much more enthusiastic across the board.
Understandable. Now, what about company policies on using AI? Does having rules help or hinder?
Seems to help, according to OSF. People in companies with AI policies generally feel more comfortable using the tech.
More trust.
More trust,
Yeah.
better efficiency, feeling more legally protected. Early adopters in those places are even more positive.
And what about places without policies?
Well, a lot of the early adopters there actually want more guidance. They feel clear rules would make them more comfortable, build trust, and help them use it more effectively.
So clear policies seem to be beneficial for adoption and confidence. What does OSF recommend for companies then?
Their main advice is develop policies, but find that balance. encourage innovation, but put safeguards in place for the company and employees.
Okay.
They also suggest a social contracts approach. Basically, talk to your employees, involve them in shaping the rules.
Makes sense. Get buy-in. Okay, finally, let's bring in KPMG's view on actually implementing this stuff strategically and HR's role.
Right. KPMG really hammers home that this isn't just about buying software. Success means a whole workforce transformation.
The remodel idea again.
Exactly. They have a framework.
Yes.
Figure out the capabilities you'll need, how roles need to change, what tech enables it.
And address the risks.
Definitely. Risk, compliance, ethics, all crucial. Then strategically augment roles with AI. And, importantly, figure out how you're going to capture the value.
So what does it take to actually make this work at scale?
KPMG lists some critical factors. The right tech infrastructure, obviously. Handling the ethical, legal, cyber risks we mentioned.
Getting people on board.
Workforce adoption, yeah. Good change management. And you have to show it's worth it, ROI, business value.
And where does HR fit into all this?
KPMG sees HR as pivotal, designing and driving the whole workforce plan. Strategic talent planning, rethinking the employee experience with AI integrated, protecting key roles during the shift.
And the upskilling piece we talked about.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah.
Training people not just on AI, but how to weave it into how they actually work. The ultimate goal, capture value.
Brew.
Productivity gains, sure, but also reskilling people into more strategic roles, figuring out the best human-AI collaboration models, redefining jobs effectively.
Okay. So pulling this all together as we wrap up, what are the main headlines from this deep dive?
Well, it's clear generative AI offers some really massive opportunities. Productivity, economic growth is huge. Right. But realizing it isn't simple. It demands really careful thinking about workforce transformation, how jobs change, the huge need for upskilling, reskilling.
And implementing it strategically.
Exactly. It needs a holistic plan, thinking beyond just the tech itself. It's about shaping the future of work thoughtfully.
Right. So hopefully you listening now have a clearer picture of all these different facets. You can join those conversations about AI at work with a deeper understanding of what's really involved.
Which leads us to maybe the final thought, the question for you to chew on. How will you adapt? Whether you're navigating your own career or part of an organization planning its future.
Yeah.
How do you proactively harness the good stuff from generative AI?
While managing the risks.
While managing the risks, yes.
Yes.
How do we build a future of work that's both productive and fair, equitable?
Definitely some big questions to keep thinking about. We'd encourage you to dig into the reports themselves if you want more detail. This field is changing so fast.
It really is. Staying informed is key.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.